Just like many, I used this corner trick for a long time, but as it didn't work as well anymore, I decided to try something new. Here comes Pepper. Welcome everybody! Today I will show you how I currently try to score from corner kicks. Perhaps some of you struggle with it. First, I will show you what you have to do, and then, and that's also very important, I'll show you some details, how to optimize it, what else you need to know, and 2 alternatives. The first thing you do is move a bit to the left, so your corner will get closer to the player we want to have it. Afterwards, press D-pad left. This opens the strategy menu. You might know this from other tutorials. Then press D-pad down for the 6-yard box run. I tried the others, but found this one to be the best for this. This will make your players start their runs. Immediately afterwards, take the corner kick with a bit less than half power. As soon as your power input is done, hold the stick to the northwest. Depending on how close your players are, which can be different as I'll show you later, you can also use a bit less power. Then you try to win the header and get the ball to your strikers. Ideally, one of them gets it and scores. So basically, the idea is to have one target player who is tall, strong in the air and has aerial superiority as well as header. He gets the ball. He then passes it to one of your forwards. They should have great finishing, first time shot and acrobatic finishing. Phenomenal finishing probably works as well. And I think having high balance can also be beneficial, although I'm not 100% sure about that. For the first movement, I always try to make it so the target player is either almost in line or even a bit in front of it just when the ball is kicked to make sure the game selects him to be the target of the corner kick. If there is no one nearby, he can also be a bit behind this line. In this position, for example, I try to aim behind my target player to make sure the game doesn't select Messi as the one to get the ball. Try to not overshoot with the power here, otherwise the game will select the player behind your target player. As you just saw, you can also do it with a left-footed taker from this position, but then hold the stick to the northeast to apply the appropriate curl. Be careful not to press the passing button for the header too late, otherwise your player won't react in time. If your players are still far away like here, either wait after the instruction or use more power, otherwise your opponent will intercept it. Like here. Here, for example, I used a bit less power because an opponent was chasing my target player. You can already see one major advantage of this method compared to the one where you select the player with your right stick, and that's that many of your opponents won't know which player the ball will go to. Be careful not to apply too few power though when one of your forwards is actually closer than your target player, because if you do, the ball might go to the forward. In this case, since it was Lewandowski, it still worked. Here is how it should originally be with this method. The reason is, as you can see, Lewandowski must actually win a contested header, whereas Oriol Romeo gets a free header because we exploit the little space we put our target player in with the 6-yard box instruction. That's my main idea behind this. Of course, it depends on your opponent how free your target player will be, but had he for example covered Oriol Romeo, I could have used more power and used the player behind him as a target player then. With players like Vieira or Zakaria, however, you could try it regardless because most of the time, like here, the opponent's contestant for the header could be a suboptimal player for aerial duels, like Ansu Fati. So before I show you a little alternative, you probably noticed that I had Mbappé and Oriol Romeo as target players, neither of which is really suited for this. The problem is that how your players are lined up during the corner kick depends on your formation. So this is the formation I usually use when doing this, just so you know. If you change a single position, it can completely change. There are 2 things you can do to alter this. If you don't use any sub-tactics at all, you could do one specifically for corner kicks. I wouldn't recommend it though, because sub-tactics are super important. Apart from that, you could try to change the players that join the attack. You could also try to play around with attack modes, but I'm not sure how reliable that is. I don't have any players that join the attack, and here is why. It could work for you though. Let's add Costa Curta and Thuram as attackers. Now as you can see, the game makes Vieira and Zakaria, two tall players quite good in the air, move back. That is not what I want at all. Additionally, the game puts these two in positions where I want the finishers to be, and instead puts Neymar in the position where my corner kick will go. It can still work, but obviously this setup would reduce my chances. If Neymar doesn't get an uncontested header, he might lose it. And Costa Curta is not a good finisher. Odds are he won't score. If Costa Curta was the initial target and Neymar the finisher, like here, it would work. If I, for example, had Gullit instead of Neymar, I could try something else here, but I'll get to that later. So there are obviously a lot of possibilities because there are many formations and you can add 0 to 3 players as attackers. If you are unhappy with how your players are lined up, try to play around with this. Another thing you should know is that your players take different positions depending on whether your corner kick taker is a right or a left-footed player. Take a look. Keep in mind that sometimes you might have to aim a bit differently because of this, or even wait a little moment before taking the corner kick after you gave the 6-yard box instruction. A variation of this you can try is holding the stick straight to the other side instead of northwest. So to the right if it is a right-footed player, and to the left if it is a left-footed player. As you can see, this lets the ball be higher up in the air when it reaches your player, which, from my feeling, increases the chance that after the initial header, the next player gets to head it as well instead of shooting it from the ground. You could use this in your favor if you either have someone like Gullit or a defender in one of the finisher spots, as these will score the header more likely than, for example, Neymar. Look how high even Vieira has to jump to reach that ball. The last thing I want to show you is something pretty interesting. For this, I use this formation and Costa Curta and Saliba as additional attackers. Just so you know, if you use a setup where around here there is a player, then you can do this. Switch to attacking mode. See what Thuram is doing now? He's moving up a little. Now, you can use him as the target player because for some reason he will sprint up like mad. This gives you an additional player in the middle, as the player originally meant to be the target of the corner kick will move close to the goal. Sometimes this player can be covered by an AI player. But don't worry, we got this. Watch this, it's hilarious. If you switch back to balanced, Thuram will move back a bit and the player marking him will totally forget that he exists. Then switch back to attacking so Thuram moves up and will make the run. The other player won't return. Don't ask me why. Regardless, uncontested header for us. If you want to target Thuram, you have to be really gentle with the power bar. See how I only used like half, but it still went to the player far away instead of Thuram. Use a bit less than me here. That's it, folks. Let me know if you like this video. I'd love you subscribed, liked or commented. Until then, guys, take it easy. Shaka!